Jordan, Lesley. Questions for Coach Lesley, Greg?
Jordan, I know it's way early to try to get any analysis, but you start with the returning guys. Sort of see anything out of them that may be a little bigger, stronger, faster, understanding? Start with the returns in that analysis.
Yeah, I'll start with Lee Koba.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have heard me say this about junior college transfers, whether they're 3 for 2 or 2 for 2. There's just always an adjustment period there. You hope it's quicker sometimes than it is, but their first season, usually as a starter, miss a lot. And Lee did well, but there was some learning curve on some things, and I think he's getting through that. And I think it's more about being in a system than it is just being at that level versus this level. So much more things that you see and adjustments, and so he's a guy who's playing faster, seeing things faster. The next one is Aubrey Burks, really kind of the same thing, not as a transfer but as a young player that a lot is put on his plate early in his career. Did the best he could, was better as the season went on, and has obviously through spring and summer been the bright spots. Sean Martin is another one. He just again, young player, starts to trust his strength, trust his body, what it can do. Mike Lockhart's a guy that contributed last year a little, who's making some strides. Andrew Wilson-Lamp is a guy that we've talked about that is taking some time with as much body, one of those longer, thinner guys that is taking some time in the weight room to let that strength catch up with him. When that strength leads to confidence, and you starting to see that. Those are just a few.
Same thing, the newcomers in terms of guys that are just getting out there. I know it's early to try to judge them, but you had some OTAs with them. What you see, the guys that are really, especially the transfers that you're probably going to have to depend on.
The biggest difference is the experience, and probably the level of experience. Beanie Bishop, Anthony Wilson, even a guy like Tyron Bradley played a lot of football, and so whether they're obviously playing catch up on a couple of things schematically, just athletically, you see some things that can really, really help us.
This time last year, you were basically filling your roster with people that got picked off through the portal and the NIL and all that. This year, you seem to be supplementing it instead of just filling in spots. Are you in a much better place there in terms of what you have personnel-wise than where you were sitting here last year?
Yeah, as Coach Brown has his opinion. I have my opinion on what how you view the portal. I think that when you have a plan, and you have time to go through and evaluate and execute your plan and what you're looking for, that obviously makes it different. We didn't have that last year, and then that was what it is, and so yeah, I feel much better going through the process that way than we did before.
So you talked about last year in the secondary, a lot of inexperience to kind of deal with. Is there a different sort of challenge this year where you've got 4 transfers in that have experience? Is the challenge now just getting them to mesh together?
Yeah, you got to whenever their timeline is to get here, then that's the time you've got to get them up to date on your schemes and what you're doing. You hope it's sooner than later, but if it's later, you got to find a way to get it across. I think it really goes back to your evaluation of the player. If I go back 3 years ago, Tony Fields got here the second week of camp and was a defense, all Big 12 player. So, I think it really just, how can you get what you're trying to get across and talk to the guys, and obviously sometimes you have to simplify some things and play catch up. Some are faster than others, but it is a challenge. But you got to, it's just what college football rosters are now, and so you got to adjust to it.
Is it kind of nice that Montre was able to get here so early and kind of get used to it in spring, and then now he's
it's just like getting a high school player a semester early. They're going to probably have a chance to contribute faster than a guy that gets here in June or July. Experience is is the best teacher.
Scheme and system play a role in that, or are you just looking for the best guys that athletically fit what you're doing when you're looking for that? I mean, like
Here's my take on that is you go find the best football players you can find, and it's your job to make the scheme fit them. That's everybody will go around and say I'm this defense, or I'm this offense, or this. You got to go out and find good football players and make it fit. Otherwise, if you just go off intangibles, it's square peg in a round hole a lot of times. So,
do you have any thoughts? Coach Brown talked a lot about using motivation of being picked last. Do you have any thoughts on just even the comments that have been made nationally about the size of the defense in particular and things like that? Do you use it at all as motivation, or just?
No, I don't even think about it. None of those people that vote, write, are at our practice or our workouts or our OTAs. I think nothing about it. We have our ways. Our guys are aware of it. Our coaches are aware of it, and I'm aware of it. Has no bearing on anything that we do as far as getting ready for a football game, practice, meeting, or anything. All right, because it's no more than an opinion. That opinion is based off something that nobody inside this building thinks about, and that's last year. So if there's any questions anymore about last year, you have to ask somebody outside here, because we don't think about it.
Will linebacker position for you guys, obviously not a lot of experience coming back there. Your thought of that? Would you have any chance of moving Lance Dixon back there, or are you satisfied with him where he is?
I mean, there's always that that possibility because he's played the position. I think for Lance's skill set, what we're doing with him really is an advantage for him, advantage for for us. It really plays for both sides. I think Will linebacker is coach has been open about it. I've been open about it. It's the question mark. But we got some pieces in there that are we're putting them under some pretty tough evaluation over the next 20, 22 days, whatever it is, to figure out who our guy is there, what our rotation is going to be there. And we'll know that probably sooner than that, but we don't know it now, and that is something that's a really, really tough competition right now. But we got some guys that we like.
The process you'll have gone through of identifying, getting back to some fundamentals, emphasizing those basics and everything. Do you learn some things in that process from players that point to, hey, I can use this guy a little bit better, or maybe this guy fits a little bit better in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we went back to basics was each of those guys, and I don't know if anybody specific. I'm not really talking about anybody specifically, and maybe you are, maybe you're not. But it's showing them, good versus bad every single day. And I think anybody gains confidence from seeing themselves doing something right over and over and over, but they also have to learn from when they do something wrong. And so we just went back and said, all right, in the winter, in the spring, and in the summer, with the OTA style of things, is we spent more time on video on fundamental things than we did on schematic things. And I think that's really, really helped a lot of our guys. And everybody talks about experience. Again, it's the best teacher. And you can go back to game film and show obviously a ton of negative and then some positive. And then as it goes throughout the winter and the spring, you're able to show them growth on things that are simple. And when you get away from that, and there's all kinds of reasons that fundamentally, had to, kind of, I said that, like I was patching holes, and there's all kinds of reasons you get away from it. None are important. We just went back to it and simple things and showing them positive, showing them negative all the time, way more than we do, blitzes or all kinds of exotic schematics. Like, none of that's important. It's really, really helped a lot of our guys, and a lot of those guys that were second, third year players, transfers. What we make important is what they see as important, and so that's really, really helped us. Hope that answered your question.
Other than Sean, is anybody on the D-line kind of standing out, your two friends?
Well, I mean, if you give me 5 to 10 guys that'll play like Eddie V, I'll take that. I'll take that all day. You know, I think that we've got some really a different type, but we got a couple nose guards. Fatorma, Hammond Russell, like those are guys that we've had some explosion and power there. I don't know if we've ever had the strength and the size that those two guys have. Really impressed with them so far. Day Hawkins is a guy who's really changed his body in a short amount of time. Not necessarily weight, but really kind of muscle distribution. Has made himself a more powerful individual, and those are a couple guys so far. Now again, we're in Jersey, so we'll see.
What have you thought of Tommy so far?
Tommy is a guy who's obviously adjusting one school, one scheme to the next. You know, Tommy's a young player, you know, and we were in it real deep in his recruiting out of high school, and you know, he's a guy who's obviously learning. He is a guy who was more of an outside backer in high school and transitioned into the defensive front, playing a number of different techniques and positions. Tommy's really smart. He's really quick on the uptake, and he's a high effort guy, and that's in everything he does. That's in weight room, that's in film study, that's on the practice field. So a guy like that has that body type, it won't be long, and he'll be dependent upon this year.
What about Hurd? What have you seen so far?
Exactly why you go recruit a guy like that. And he's exactly what we thought he was. He's one of our best natural pass rushers. Just has a knack. Is a lot savvier than you think that he would be as early in his career in coverage. And he just, you know, I think he had a pick today on the tip ball, and really just off reaction. He's going to be a really good player for us.
So there's a role for him right away, just for his ability to
I
rush
believe
back.
so. Yeah, I mean we won't know. I mean,
Right.
Put the pads on a couple weeks, kind of see, you know, where you go, sub packages and stuff like that. But he is, like I said, he's natural. He's natural pass rush movements. Has a knack to feel and react to the pocket. Like, I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure there will be.
Is there anybody else is there anybody else on defense that you feel like hasn't been mentioned as much that maybe could either take a jump or could stand out this season that you've noticed?
You know, I think Trey Lathan is a guy right now that is showing some big improvements. Again, a young player, and probably, you know, you look at that will linebacker position, probably where we need him to make an impact. You know, young guys. I tell you, a young corner that is athletically and made a play yesterday that was more of a really smart situational play that nobody has thought a lot about, mainly because he played running back in high school, and that's Jordan Jackson. Has done some good things so far. Is a naturally fast guy. Has a good body on him, good length. You know, I think he'll find a role somewhere from defense to special teams this fall.
You're talking about showing guys negative plays and, you know, trying to learn from it. How do you approach that? I mean, that's kind of hard to do. I mean, some guys take criticism well, some guys don't. How individualized do you get? Is it arm around the shoulder, or is it, you know, how do you approach it?
I mean, I think every kid's different. I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the number one thing, let's just take the kids now versus when I was, not that I'm young, but when I was in high school, college, I never really had to know the why. You know, it was like, hey, do this, and here's how you do it. If you don't do it, I'll find somebody else to do it. And that's just kind of how a lot of us come up. And I think now with a number of, and I don't know what it is. You can say it's social media or technology or whatever. But I think as long as any kid, my point is, as long as any kid understands the why, you can show them anything you want to. Like, here's why I'm showing you this. Here's where it not only hurt you, but hurt the other 10 of us. Then they'll understand it. And I think as long as you always have why you're showing them what you're showing, and then immediately follow that with the positive of what you're trying to get them to do. I think it makes it much easier. I think any good teacher does that, and that's the way we do it.
How much can you work with Josiah Trotter in terms of classroom work? How do you keep him involved while he's obviously rehabbing?
Yeah, I mean, you just, this it's obviously something you can't control. So you keep him in the meeting room, keep him around the guys, keep him around the locker room. Josiah's a great teammate. I mean, he's there, he's learning. It's just, it's all schematics for him and learning. And I say schematics, it's a lot of it's about our systems as a team, as a defense, things that we do, things that we're going to repeat every single cycle, whether it's winter, spring, summer, fall. It's learning all, just sitting down and watching. And obviously the number one thing is getting healthy, especially now with all the techniques they have, and the knee's probably better on the back end than it was on the front end, but it's all about the rehab. So that's where the focus is, obviously. But he doesn't miss a beat. He's upbeat. He's positive. And like I said, he sits in the meeting room. He learns techniques, fundamentals, system, scheme, and he'll be better for it down the road.
Where do you want to see some of these positions settled when you have to start making the hard decisions on who's going to be where and what? Is it you still got a couple weeks away before you have to make these hard decisions, or would you like to see them settle a little sooner?
Well, you'd obviously like to see them a little sooner, and some will settle a little sooner based on the experience that you have at some positions, and some will not, but not necessarily because of you don't have a player there. It's for this group. I think this is probably the best quality depth. And so some of those positions, like, all right, we're going to name a starter, but we're probably going to have to find 40% of the snaps, to where before it was a little more 70, 80%, 10, 20%. And a lot of positions, not all of them, but a lot of them we have, and that's a good problem for us.
You could have some 1Bs maybe?
Yeah, yep, sure could.
To that end, I'm assuming then that there's more of a confidence that if injuries would happen or if something would occur, that there's more of a plug and play, it wouldn't kind of collapse the defense. Because Aubrey talked about in the spring that after Woods went down, they were looking for a vocal leader for games on end.
Right.
That might be avoidable this year then?
I mean, you like to think so. You're not going to know till you get into a game, and that's something that you can only put them in situations in practice to see. If that's the case, again, like Aubrey, who's now more of that guy, was obviously in a situation last year where it wasn't that guy. Well, that's just experience, right? So now you have 3 or 4 of them across the back, including Lamp, Montre Miller, and Beanie Bishop, and guys that have played a lot, that have been in good systems, and so the short answer is yeah, you do, but you will not know for sure, and I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, right now I would feel better about it, but you still don't know.
Jordan, on your secondary acquisitions, I've been listening to you talk, you mentioned good players, veterans, you got guys who are taller, longer, faster. Was there like a primary quality or a set of qualities that you're looking for as you're trying to overall recruit the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of went back. I don't want to give it just a generic answer and say a ball player, but I think that carries a lot more weight in the evaluation, maybe as opposed to the last couple of years than straight up intangibles. Does that make sense? Because when you're looking at guys on video, especially early or the first portal cycle, and at that point you're looking at starters and guys that are significant contributors, and for whatever reasons they're in the portal is not important. But that's the video you're looking at instead of looking at who's the best available. It's a big difference. And so we just went back and said, all right, can the guy track the ball in the air? Can he find the ball on the ground? And that's probably the easiest evaluation you can do, but that has been better to us than some of the other things, whether it's length, height, speed, all those things everybody looks for. And not that you're not looking for that too, but I think that good football players was probably the number one evaluation for us.
Not that you wouldn't look for good football players in the front, but guys like Mulva, the guys you fire up front. Is that, can you be more specific there? Because you like explosion. You can just do a lot with that. Is that bedrock where you have to have, or is it, all players there too? It's just a difference in qualities.
No, not necessarily. I think it goes back and really, like, what are you trying to be? And we had a luxury. I go back with Darius and Dante, who were extremely, maybe not, Darius more than Dante when you talk about intangibles as far as D linemen. But they were extremely explosive. They were really good on the run. They were really good on the move, and they created issues for guys in the run game and protection. And we essentially built the defense around that. Now, you look at the film and you go, all right, let's look at nose guards. And not that it's fit what you're specifically trying to do. It's like, all right, this is the guy that really, really like in this position. He allows us to do A, B, and C, maybe not C, D, whatever. So, again, you're right, you get the best ball player. But one thing we did try to do in all of those positions was get a little bigger, a little longer. And so, and the defense will have to, will mirror that, and have to go along with their skill set. So, that's kind of, I guess, a yes and a no up front. We did want to get a little bit bigger and a little longer, but you're still going to take good ball players and explosion where you got it and where you need it. So, or where you can find it and where you need it, sorry.
Okay, anything else, Coach? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.